Welcome back to Backspace Academy. Coming up next, what I'm going to do is run through all of the products and services that are offered on AWS. Now, there's an enormous amount of services, so rather than go through them all in one hit, I'm going to break it up into a lot of sections, and then at the end of each section, I'm going to give you an example of how to use those services, and then after that, we'll do a hands-on session or a lab where you can actually use those services yourself hands-on. So what I need to do now is just give you a very quick introduction to the different types of cloud computing models that are available. Infrastructure as a service, it contains the basic building blocks for cloud IT. What that means is that is nuts and bolts stuff. So if we want to launch a Linux server and we want to manage that Linux server ourselves, that is how we would do that as infrastructure as a service. And we would do that using the Elastic Compute Cloud or EC2 service. The next level is Platform as a Service or PaaS. And that's where AWS will take a little bit more control over over the underlying infrastructure. So AWS manages that underlying infrastructure and the hardware and operating system normally. And a good example of that would be the relational database service. And in that service, AWS, they provision all the operating system, the server and everything to run that, but you still need to do the high level administration of that database. And then finally, we've got software as a service or SaaS. And that is a complete product that normally runs in a browser, and it is mostly refers to end user applications. A good example of that would be Office 365 or Salesforce.com. And you'll hear another term used a lot with AWS, and that is serverless computing. And so that allows you to build and run applications without having to think about servers. You don't need to provision the server yourself. AWS will do that for you. It's also referred to as function as a service or abstract services. Examples of that are the simple storage service where we will be using at the end of this lecture, where we create a bucket and we put objects and files into that bucket. We don't know what's behind that bucket. Obviously, there's going to be an operating system, most probably a Linux operating system, a file server, there's going to be hard drives. We don't need to worry about that because AWS, they look after all that for us. AWS Lambda is where you can run code in the cloud, again, without service. You just provide AWS your code. AWS looks after everything for you. DynamoDB is a NoSQL database in the cloud as a service. And Amazon Simple Notification Service that can send out notifications to your users. So that's a pretty quick introduction of the different types of cloud computing models. The best way to really get a good knowledge of it is to go through all these products, get your hands on with them, and then you'll fully understand it a lot better. So there's only one more thing to do, and that is, let's get into it. Welcome back to Backspace Academy. In this lecture, we're going to run through some of the storage services that are available on AWS. Then we'll look at some examples of how you can use these, and finally, we'll finish up with a hands-on lab using one of these services. Amazon Simple Storage Service, or S3 for short, it's designed to store and access any type of data over the internet. It's a serverless service, and as such, we don't need to worry about what is behind it. There's obviously a file server, an operating system, a hard drive, but we don't need to be concerned about that at all. We just simply need to create this thing called a bucket, and then we upload objects to that bucket. The bucket grows as we add objects to it, and the size of that bucket is theoretically unlimited. AWS, it just looks after everything for us. Amazon Glacier is the cheapest storage option on AWS, and it's used for long-term archiving of data. It's a serverless service, just like Amazon S3, but it is not as readily accessible as S3. So it should only be used for content that is to be archived. You can also set up a lifecycle rule that will automatically migrate old data in Amazon S3 automatically over to Glacier for long-term archiving. Amazon Elastic Block Store, or EBS for short, is a highly available, low-latency block storage, and it's specifically for attaching to servers that are launched with the Amazon EC2 service. We'll learn more about the EC2 service coming up, and it's similar to attaching a hard drive to your computer at home. Works in the same manner. It's block device storage. Amazon Elastic File System, or EFS for short, is network attached storage, and it's specifically for Amazon EC2 servers. Because it is network attached storage, this allows multiple servers to access the one data source, in a similar way to a NAS on your network at home can be accessed by multiple computers on that network. The AWS Storage Gateway enables hybrid storage between on-premise environments and the AWS cloud. It provides a low latency performance by caching frequently used data on premises while storing the less frequently data in Amazon cloud storage services. A Snowball device is a portable, petabyte scale data storage device that can be used to migrate data and large amounts of data from on-premise environments over to the AWS cloud. You simply download your data to the Snowball device, then you send it off to AWS, who will then upload that data to an AWS storage service for you. Okay, so let's have a look at some examples of using the AWS storage services. In orange there, we've got the AWS cloud. Now, we can create a VPC inside that AWS cloud. And that VPC, or virtual private cloud, is our own private space within the AWS cloud. And that is an impenetrable fortress against attack. And no one will be able to enter our own private space without us allowing that to happen. So let's just say we launch 2 servers in our VPC. Now we want these servers to have access to data and somewhere to store that data. And so in a normal environment, you would just add a hard drive to that server. So in the same way, we can attach an Amazon Elastic Block storage device to our servers. So that's great. We've now got high-speed access to our data. But what if we want that data to be available to both of those servers? So here we've got 2 EBS volumes. What if we want that data to be on one volume only? So as we know it on our computer at home, we can't attach a hard drive or a block device hard drive to multiple computers. It just doesn't work like that. So in a situation like that, in your home network at home, you would just go out and purchase a NAS, a network attached storage device. You would attach it to your network. You would set up your operating system in your desktop computers to have a mount target for that network attached storage. So when you go to your G drive or whatever it is, or E drive or F drive, whatever it is, that will point to that network attached storage. In the same way that we can do that with our network at home, we can do the same thing with AWS. So Elastic File System is network attached storage. And so that, with a mount target, can enable multiple servers to access the one data source. Now, what if we don't want to worry about mount targets and block devices and all this sort of stuff? We just want somewhere we can upload objects to, in a similar way to we do with Google Drive or something like that. And we also want to have an automated solution that over time migrates that data over to something more low cost and more long-term for archiving. Now that is where Amazon S3 comes in. And so we can use Amazon S3 to create a bucket, store objects in that bucket, delete objects, do whatever we want with it. And we can also set up a lifecycle rule on that bucket so that over a period of time, as objects age, they can be migrated over to an Amazon Glacier Vault for long-term archiving. It will still be accessible, it just won't be as readily accessible as the S3 bucket. But the advantage is that we'll be using the lowest cost storage that's available on AWS. Now, that S3 bucket will be located in the AWS cloud. It's not located in our VPC. So remember we said the VPC is our private space within the AWS cloud. And nothing gets through it without us allowing it to come through. So that is where the VPC